The instinct to prepare for the unexpected is a powerful one. From natural disasters to global pandemics, political instability to economic collapse, the world we live in continues to prove just how fragile our systems really are. And it's no wonder that more and more people are embracing the idea of being a prepper, someone who takes proactive steps to ensure they and their loved ones can endure and survive a wide range of potential crises. Prepping, at its core, is about resilience, self-reliance, and readiness. But like any serious endeavor, good intentions are only the beginning. If not approached with care, knowledge, and experience, prepping can easily be derailed by avoidable mistakes. And in this line of effort, mistakes don't just cost money, they can cost lives. Before you spend another dollar on gear or dedicate another weekend to organizing your supplies, take a step back. It's worth taking a hard look at some of the most common mistakes preppers make, especially early on in their journey. These aren't just minor missteps. They're the kinds of oversights that can cripple your preparedness when it matters most. Learning from the errors of others can give you a serious edge in a real-world scenario. One of the biggest and most overlooked mistakes in prepping is neglecting your own physical and mental fitness. It's easy to get caught up in buying the latest gear, building out storage shelves of food and supplies, or researching bug-out locations. But none of that matters if your body can't handle the stress of a real emergency. Think about it. If you had to hike for hours carrying a heavy pack, could you do it? If you needed to physically defend yourself or move debris to rescue a loved one, would you have the strength, the endurance, the flexibility to act without hesitation? Physical fitness isn't just about looks, it's a critical asset in a survival scenario. And it's not just the body that needs conditioning. Mental resilience is just as vital. In high-stress situations, panic, despair, and fear can cloud judgment and lead to fatal decisions. A prepper with a calm mind, one who's trained to handle stress and problem-solve under pressure, will fare far better than someone who's physically stocked but mentally fragile. Building that resilience requires intentional work, stress inoculation, mindfulness practices, mental challenges, and even scenario-based training. These exercises can help you face fear and keep a level head when the pressure is on. Another major pitfall is underestimating the importance of water. People often spend far more time and money on food than water, probably because hunger feels more familiar and manageable. But the truth is, you can go for weeks without food. Miserable, yes, but survivable. Without water, however, you're in serious trouble within just a few days. And it's not just about having enough to drink. Water is essential for hygiene, food preparation, sanitation, and even first aid. A lot of preppers make the mistake of just storing a few cases of bottled water and calling it good. But in a true long-term emergency, that supply won't last long. More importantly, what happens when that water runs out? Do you know how to safely collect and purify water from natural sources? Have you practiced it? There's a big difference between watching a YouTube video on water purification and doing it yourself when you're cold, tired, and under stress. Equipment like filters and purification tablets are great, but you need backups and redundancy. And you need to understand how to use them under less than ideal conditions. Another myth that many fall for is the overly romantic idea of bugging out. The fantasy of fleeing to a remote cabin in the woods with a rifle slung over your shoulder and living off the land is a popular one. But for most people, bugging out should be a last resort, not the primary plan. It's not that having a bug-out plan is bad, it's essential, but relying on it as your first line of defense is a mistake. Bugging out involves serious risks. Roads may be blocked, your destination might be compromised, or you could run into other desperate people along the way. You'll be vulnerable while traveling, and unless your destination is well stocked and secure, you may find yourself in worse shape than if you had stayed put. That's why most preppers should focus first on bugging in, making your home as safe, secure, and self-sufficient as possible. Shelter, supplies, defense, and a sense of community. These are all things that are often more achievable at home than on the run. A related issue is the tendency to focus on acquiring stuff rather than skills. It's understandable. Buying gear is easy. It gives you a sense of progress. But gear without the skill to use it is just dead weight. You could have the best medical kit money can buy, but if you don't know how to stop bleeding or treat burns, it won't help when it matters most. You could have top-of-the-line tools for hunting or fire starting, but without training and practice, they're no better than rocks. Skills are like muscles. They require effort and repetition to build, and they last even when your gear fails. So prioritize learning. Take first aid and CPR courses. Practice fire starting in wet conditions. Spend time in the wilderness and learn how to build shelter from scratch. These aren't just cool hobbies, they're potentially life-saving capabilities that could determine whether you survive or not. Now, let's talk about community, or rather, the lack of it. There's a dangerous narrative in the prepping world about going it alone. The lone wolf survivor who trusts no one and takes on the world solo. While it might make for an exciting story, it's not very realistic. Human beings are social creatures. In times of crisis, having a trustworthy community can make the difference between surviving and thriving, or barely scraping by and falling apart. Prepping doesn't mean isolating yourself. In fact, the opposite is often more effective. A network of prepared individuals can share resources, skills, and security responsibilities. They can provide companionship and emotional support. In a long-term scenario, rebuilding anything resembling a normal life will require collaboration, not isolation. So take the time to get to know your neighbors, find like-minded people, form mutual assistance groups. It's not a sign of weakness to rely on others. It's a strategy that works. Another trap preppers fall into is thinking only about the first few days or weeks of a crisis. They stock up on enough supplies to get through a short emergency, but don't consider what comes next. What happens when the canned goods run out? When the batteries die? When things don't return to normal as quickly as hoped? Prepping for the long haul means thinking about sustainability. Can you grow your own food? Do you know how to preserve it? Can you generate power using renewable sources like solar or wind? How will you deal with waste and sanitation over time? These are the kinds of questions that separate true long-term preparedness from short-term survival. And finally, we can't ignore the importance of security and situational awareness. It's one thing to be prepared with supplies and skills. It's another to protect them. Emergencies can bring out the best in people, but they can also bring out the worst. Desperation can drive people to do things they wouldn't normally consider. If you're the only one with resources in a community that's running out, you could become a target. Security doesn't mean paranoia. It means having a plan. It means being aware of your surroundings, establishing perimeters, and having defensive tools and the knowledge to use them responsibly. It means developing the habit of noticing small changes, of trusting your instincts, and of taking threats seriously without panicking. In the end, prepping isn't about hoarding supplies or hiding from the world. It's about being ready, physically, mentally, emotionally, and practically. It's about developing the kind of mindset that stays calm in chaos, makes informed decisions, and adapts when the plan falls apart. Avoiding the common mistakes we've talked about here is a great place to start. They're not just theories, they're lessons learned by people who have lived through disasters and by those who've spent years studying what works and what doesn't. So take an honest look at your current preparedness. Where are the gaps? What needs more attention? Where are you relying too much on gear and not enough on knowledge? Prepping is a journey, not a destination. And every step you take to improve your readiness, no matter how small, puts you in a stronger position for whatever tomorrow brings. Your future self, your family, and your community will thank you.